How old is old? To the archaeologist, this question is more than a matter of idle curiosity. The archaeologist must be able to tell the true age of an artifact by its position in time. With the knowledge of recorded history and the written languages from the past, we learn how a people lived and when they lived. Very precise records of the Egyptian pharaohs have provided archaeologists with an accurate chronology of the events in ancient Egypt. The historical framework of the ancient Near East is based on its relationship to this chronology. But what does the archaeologist do when there is no solid evidence to rely upon? How can we pinpoint events in history? How can we tell how old is old? Several scientific techniques are employed to determine the age of artifacts. The most familiar is radiocarbon dating, a technique devised a little over 25 years ago. With radiation counters, scientists can calculate the time at which the once living plant or animal died, and thus determine the age. Dr. Henry Michael of the University of Pennsylvania's Museum Applied Science Center for Archaeology.
Archaeologists accepted radiocarbon dates right away, but then they discovered discrepancies between the Egyptian dynastic dates, which they had established so painstakingly over the past 100 years, and the radiocarbon dates. And at 3000 BC, the discrepancy is about 600 years. So they became skeptical, and rightly so.
It was realized a correction factor was needed. The idea was conceived to adjust radiocarbon dates with something that could be precisely dated and then dated by the radiocarbon method. Tree rings are nature's way of recording time. For every year that a tree lives, it grows a ring. Very seldom does a year pass that a new ring is not added. The tedious process of tree ring counting has provided scientists with precisely dated wood samples accurate to the year.
In order to carry the correction factor into antiquity, we take precisely dated wood and we put it through the radiocarbon dating process. Considering the archaeologically important periods, we find that from about 1280 to 300 BC, the results essentially correlate well with tree ring dates. But after about 300 BC, we start getting radiocarbon dates that are younger than tree ring dates. If we take 10 tree rings dating back to about 2000 BC and put them through the radiocarbon process, they will date younger than 2000 BC by something like 350 years. We then take the difference between the radiocarbon date of the wood that has been precisely dated and use it as a correction factor. So far, we have found wood reaching to about 6000 BC. What we have to do now is to find wood older than 6000 BC and simply carry this function of correcting radiocarbon dates further into antiquity.
The initial requirement was to date a series of long-lived trees. This was provided first by the sequoias. The oldest living sequoias are a little over 3,000 years old. Though they are the largest of living trees, they are not the oldest. Living bristlecone pines have reached the age of 4,800 years. Some of these unique trees were growing when the great pyramids of Egypt were being built. They were 2,000 to 3,000 years old when the Roman Empire ruled the world. Since long-dead trees must be used, the relative dryness and short summers of the ecological zone at altitudes of 10,000 to 11,000 feet help preserve the dead trees in the White Mountains of Northern California. Also, it is fortunate that the high resin content of the bristlecone pines tends to preserve them better than most other woods. Working in collaboration with Dr. Roger Vickers and Dr. Lambert Dolphin of the Stanford Research Institute, Dr. Michael began a field survey in the quest for the ancient wood.
What we hope to find here, buried in the fen, is bristlecone pine wood, which was carried out of the canyon, such as the one behind us, during torrential floods caused in turn by severe thunder showers, which dumped millions of tons of water into the drainage system of the canyon. If we succeed in finding this wood, we may be able to extend the bristlecone chronology, which now stands at about 6000 BC.
In the search for the ancient wood, the survey team used a new form of radar still in development. It can sense through soil and rock and can probe the subsurface to depths from several feet to hundreds of feet in some environments. Independent excavation of this area could have conceivably taken years. This soil-penetrating radar offered the team not only an indication of several localities to excavate, but conserved valuable time and funds. A printout radar map provided an instant on-site assessment as a visual record for further analysis. The search for the ancient bristlecone wood will continue until accurately dated wood samples are available to determine the nature and extent of differences between tree ring dates and radiocarbon dates. These ancient trees have existed longer than most of the world's cultures, and because of their fantastic age, the preserved wood will probably extend to great antiquity. With that knowledge, they can help us to understand better how old is old.